Greetings to you this day. This is Michelle Strickland, and I'm going to talk to you briefly about embracing vulnerability. The role of vulnerability in fostering authentic connections. Authentic connections are built on a foundation of vulnerability. When we allow ourselves to be open, honest, and vulnerable, we create a space for genuine interactions with others. Vulnerability is the bridge that connects us on a deeper level, transcending the superficial barriers that often hinder the, true understanding. By sharing our true selves, our fears, and our imperfections, we invite others to do the same, creating a bond that is both meaningful and profound. And, if we can just come together sometimes and just be vulnerable a little bit. I know we got to be careful with that in this day and time because people are so evil. Some people take advantage, but I'm going to just keep going because we can't, we got to keep, some of us, we got to keep living on this earth, I'm going to give you an example. Sarah was always known for her composed exterior and successful career. However, her relationships lacked depth and intimacy. During a team building workshop, participants were encouraged to share personal stories. Sarah hesitated, but eventually opened up about her struggles with imposter syndrome. To her surprise, several colleagues admitted to similar feelings, and a new level of camaraderie emerged within the team. We can't, and I can relate to that, when we're talking to people in groups and stuff, it's not always easy for us to tell everybody to say, how you really feel about something. And you should be cautious about that. So I'm not saying go just tell your life history when you're sitting before a group, but there's a certain level of vulnerability that you can consider, okay? Exploring the fear of judgment. The fear of judgment is a powerful force that often prevents us from embracing vulnerability, which I understand, In this day and time, I understand it. People used to be a lot more open, and more vulnerable. But people have always been judgmental, but people communicated a little bit more than they do now. But anyway, we worry that if we reveal our true selves, we will be criticized, rejected, or misunderstood. This fear can be paralyzing, causing us to put up emotional walls and hide behind a facade of perfection. However, it's important to recognize that the fear of judgment is often exaggerated, and people's responses can be far more accepting and supportive than we anticipate. And I'm only bringing up these suggestions, for when you're in certain situations, I'm not saying don't be cautious. I'm just giving you some suggestions and ideas for how to interact with people when you're in groups or, stuff like that, okay? Or if you're interacting with somebody that you're trying to get to know, okay? I'm going to give you an example. Alex had a passion for painting, but he kept it a secret from his friends because he believed, they would view that as an unusual hobby. One day he gathered the courage to share his artwork on social media. To his surprise, his friends not only appreciated his talent, but also started sharing their own hidden creative pursuits. And, that's all I'm saying. We need to get back to a more encouraging society, instead of so judgmental and harsh, Is it possible? I believe it's possible. Are we still going to have some knuckleheads out here, preaching hate, doom and gloom? Yeah, we're going to, but they've always been around. But we got to navigate past them. So let's keep going. To some of us out here want to create a society where we can all where people can learn how to interact with each other, in a healthy way. I'm going to give some techniques for embracing vulnerability. Start small. Begin by sharing small vulnerabilities with someone you trust. It could be admitting a minor mistake or expressing a personal preference. As you receive positive responses, you'll gain confidence in sharing deeper aspects of yourself. That's why whenever I'm doing certain videos, I'll say you don't have to be perfect. I'll say I'm not perfect. I'll hammer that in. I try to hammer that point, because to get past the stigma of having to always feel like everything has to be exactly correct or perfect. None of us are. And none of us are perfect, we can strive for it. We can try to strive for it, though. But that's why certain things that I discuss all the time in my lessons, like the Smile Challenge, all of those, like You Matter, and all of those exercises, those are icebreakers and exercises. Those are exercises that I designed for a reason, to break the ice and to let you know, it's okay to be vulnerable. That's my way of being vulnerable. Is it corny? Yeah, I know it's corny. Yeah, it's corny. But it's my way to break the ice and be vulnerable also with people. I know I look like cheese ball when I'm smiling. I know. But I'm making myself vulnerable to you. I make goofy videos too. Some videos I have are serious, But I try to show you, I try to be vulnerable with y'all. Show you that there's still people out here that are willing to do that. Now, I have my boundaries. If you disrespect me and you're rude to me, I might bring some heat back to you. But we're not talking about that. I'm going to just keep on going. I might not get through all of them. Practice self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you offer to your loved ones. You treat yourself, love yourself. It's not selfish. If you got to make sure you take care of yourself first. You living in your own body. Then it'll make it easier for you to help other people. Recognize that imperfections are part of being human, and don't define your worth. Let me keep on going. Maybe I can get a couple more in there. Cultivate active listening. Practice being an attentive and non-judgmental listener when others share their vulnerabilities. This encourages reciprocity and creates a safe space for both parties to open up. And I am a huge, firm believer in that. Just be willing to listen to somebody. You don't have to agree with them, but just be willing to hear what they have to say, because you might learn something, or you might get something out of it. Let's see. Challenge negative self-talk. Notice when your inner critic starts whispering doubts about your worthiness. Replace these thoughts with affirmations that reinforce your self-acceptance and courage. I do that. That's what the affirmations are. You're a beacon of light. All of those affirmations and stuff like that, that's for self-talk. But this stuff that I'm recording most of them are lessons to encourage. I designed them to encourage, for self-talk, for positive feedback for yourself, And then to feedback to let you know you can be vulnerable. You don't have to be perfect. That's why I designed those lessons, as corny as they are. It's so we can reprogram our body. And get rid of the negative self-talk. Because negative self-talk is what holds us back from being our best self. But let me see if I can get through one more. Seek professional support. If fear of judgment and vulnerability are deeply rooted, seeking therapy or counseling can provide a safe environment to explore these feelings. And I encourage you to do that. If you have an opportunity, you don't have anyone to talk to, go to a local hospital and ask somebody, or call them and see who has the support groups, or if there's any counselors in your area, that you can talk to. It's important, Don't be alone by yourself. And I'm telling you this because I'm alone mostly, but I still interact with people, By embracing vulnerability, we create an environment where authenticity thrives, allowing us to build deeper connections and fostering meaningful relationships. Remember that vulnerability is not a weakness, but a strength that can lead to personal growth and richer interactions with others.